Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today, we're going to be talking about all things ADHD in the workplace and how it shows up. For those of you that are new to me, my name is Kathy Rashidian. I'm an executive coach with specialization in ADHD, especially in the workplace. I am also a trainer, a facilitator at the ADD Coach Academy, where we train the up and coming next uh, generation of ADHD coaches, if you will. And today we're going to be talking about workplace and how ADHD shows up in it. This is near and dear to my heart, as those of you that have followed me around it know that I come from 20 years of background in various leadership roles in corporations and big enterprises. And I didn't get my diagnosis till late in life. And it was a light bulb moment for me to understand how my brain shows up, especially in the workplace. And my hope for today is that I bring some of that insight over to you so that you can go from what I call accidental success to intentional success. So buckle up. Let's get ready to do this. I am going to be presenting a slide where I just, it helps me keep my thoughts organized. We're going to go through 3 different ways that I like to think ADHD can show up in your professional career. And by no means are they limited to just these 3 different ways. There are definitely nuances to ADHD, especially for those of us that also have other diagnoses and other ways that our brain shows up. So this is just my current view of it, and I hope that it's beneficial. Towards the conversation, there'll be times where I will mention some of the offerings that I have, some of the programs that we have coming up in January. So there will be a shameless plug into what I'm offering to our techs in professionals in the workplace, especially in the tech area. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let me hope and make sure that I am able to present this. And for those of you that are coming in over to LinkedIn, there's a few of you. Welcome, welcome. Just let me know that you're able to hear me. So if my audio is coming in through, please say yes, so that I know that that's happening. And let us get into the content of today. Oh, and one other thing that I forgot to mention, and let me just mention that right now. Um, at I'm going to probably talk about probably 30 to 40 minutes, hopefully not too long. But then what I have also scheduled is a private Q&A after this presentation so that I can talk back and forth with the listeners. So please go into the comment section of this event and look up that Zoom link that's there. If you register for that, no obligation, but it'll be a way for us to communicate back and forth. So you can hop over to the registration in the comment section, register in that Zoom link. Once I'm done doing this show and tell, if you will, I will hop over to the Zoom and we can converse, answer any questions you have about ADHD in the workplace, coaching, all that stuff. So you'll have direct access to me live. So if you haven't done that, do so, and that's where we're going to continue this conversation and take it from one way to 2-way back and forth. And I would love to hear comments, questions there. And in that Zoom, it's private. So, and I understand with ADHD and the stigma in the workplace, sometimes people don't want to comment on here and ask questions here. So that's your privacy and access to me over to the Zoom. All right, let's get into it. So as I've been working through this journey of ADHD coaching, one of the things that came up loud and clear for me, and I'm one of those folks that like to see things in patterns, and my brain just kind of connects the dots and put things into buckets, if you will. And in my humble observation, and actually I worked with a colleague of mine, dear colleague of mine, Sherry Cannon, where we looked at what are some of the themes that we see in our clients and the way ADHD can show up for our clients in the workplace and even for ourselves. So the way we kind of narrowed it down to were 3 themes that we were seeing. There's the dreamer person characteristic, if you will, There's the rescuer, and I call it the self-appointed fire marshal. And then there's the imposter. These are not limited to, and I'm sure there'd be other personas if we were to look at them. There'd be other personas of ADHD professionals, but these were the three that were kind of common amongst what we saw within our clientele. So let me break it down a little bit for you. And also, as you're going through this, notice how this kind of persona, if you will, shows up in your day in a life. And I've had comments in the past when I've presented this information. They're like, well, I'm all three. And sometimes I'm really one of them. And for me, for example, I was the middle one, the rescuer, and I'll talk about what the rescuer does. And I remember before even my diagnosis, I had found a little picture of a caricature that was a female and was holding what do you call it? Fire extinguisher. And I had that printed and I had it at my desk. So I really was proud of my self-appointed fire marshal in my corporate setting. And little did I know that eventually that does turn into burnout and exhaustion and all of that good stuff, which I'll get into. So as I'm talking about this, think of how this shows up in your day to day. And also we'll talk about some of the things that you can do. And I truly believe in the fact that our strengths, as much as they can be awesome and we can shine when we lean into our strengths, they can also, when not tamed and not looked at fully, they can become our kryptonite. And for me, this is where we take it from that accidental success to intentional success. So I'll elaborate more as we go through this. So the dreamer, essentially think of the dreamer, and this is, again, my humble observation, and I'm not putting a full-on diagnosis on this, because this is just what I'm noticing. What I find those that are the dreamers, I see a lot of inattentive ADHD. If I could say that. And inattentive ADHD shows up in that they're thinking about the next thing. There's 20, 30, thousands of ideas in their head on an ongoing basis. And they're just with their dreams all day, every day. And the idea, as much as it's amazing, bringing it to execution can be a challenge for them. So they're not only the innovators and see opportunities and often think outside the box. The other side of it, the double-edged sword, is that sometimes, not all the time, they're not able to execute. So they dream big, they're strategic thinkers, but then when it comes to execution, the inaction happens. And most with inattentive ADHD, we see that it's more of thinking and not the doing part. And when it's uncovered, that genius, when it's uncovered and the right supportive workplace is set up for them, they can do amazing things. They can lead into next level innovation. And how do you support a dreamer? And one of the things that I want to emphasize here also is I am a big advocate around self-leadership first. That agency to self is, how can I support myself first before I can put the finger out and say, my corporation needs to give me accommodations, they need to address. So when it comes to the dreamer side of you, that you're finding yourself often in these brilliant ideas and all of a sudden somebody else has ran with it, is to pause and look at what are the different ways I can support myself. And that could look like, and a lot of times with dreamers, having a thinking partner, having a second brain that they can talk things out to and flush out ideas really becomes beneficial for them. So it's one thing to sit in that rumination and ideation for so long, but to bring it into action, you need to talk it out, you need to hear it out loud, and you need a space where you can just unapologetically try it out and see what happens. The other piece that could get in the way of the dreamer is that perfectionism may come in, anxiety comes in, what if I fail? A lot of beliefs, and actually I was just teaching a class to coaches on beliefs and how sometimes we hold on to them as our truths. And what if we reevaluate those beliefs and say, what is it today at this point, at this age, the new belief that I want to have around this that could serve me in moving forward? There was a stat somewhere that I saw that by the age of 10, those with ADHD have received 20,000 negative words, more than the other kids. And that's pretty sad. And also at the same time, imagine if you're hearing that much, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not good at this, you're not good at math, you're not going to come out to nothing, you're not living to your potential. Well, it would make sense that we create these beliefs that this becomes our identity. And I think one of the things we do in coaching is when we look at that current identity and what does the reinvention of that look like, the other side of it. And most of the time, the most amazing thing is when I witness my clients giving themselves permission to just be who they really want to be and not living by society's standards. And that permission to proceeding to be themselves, it takes a bit of work, but it is doable. And so for those dreamers that are sitting in the narrative of, I have amazing ideas, but they're not coming to life. So quick access to it is have a thinking partner. I also like to say, bring on a board of brains. And your board of brains are those that can fill in the blanks of the things that you may not excel in, but they can also come in and contribute to it. So that this is not I'll do it myself, but also it takes a community to do this, and they're here to support me. And be able to create a community that also supports you in a way that is empowering and does not create codependency. Because that's also the other side that I hear is, well, if I bring on so-and-so, then I'm always going to be dependent on them. Not if it's done in a healthy way, that partnership that you can bring in. So I hope that resonated with the dreamers in the room and those that are listening. The dreamer side is a thing, and it's to micro wins, micro execution. And also the other part that I want to mention too, in this realm, also the dreamers, the divergent thinking that happens, I hear this often in meetings. Somebody comes up with a topic and the dreamer may have 20 different ways that topic can go. And then they want to bring all of it into a meeting, or they want to execute on everything. And this is where I say, tame your impulsivity, because in the absence of your impulsivity, you will want to take action on all of them because they all seem just as good and amazing. However, what's within your capacity, what's within your bandwidth. So that's also another way of just taming that impulse, or the, well, I have 20 ideas, I need to execute, but what's within reason right now that can be done? I actually, for the dreamer side of me, I have a black book behind me here where I capture a lot of my dreams of the things that I want to eventually one day do. So instead of sitting in the doom and gloom and shame of I'm not executing on my dreams, it's captured somewhere. And maybe one day I'll do them all or not at all, but at least I've captured them somewhere. There's a book by Barbara Sher, may she rest in peace. It was life-changing for me. The book is called Refuse to Choose. And if you're a dreamer, I would highly recommend checking out this book. And one of the techniques she talks about is to create that dream book. And from time to time, when I sit with that dream book, either I'm capturing my unfinished projects or new ideas. But in that moment that I'm doing that, I have fun with it. I bring out colored pens, I'm doing sticky notes, and I just really sit with that new idea that I have. And that's another way actually to even get dopamine from that is not everything has to be executed. Some things, just have fun playing with them. Even talking to somebody could be beneficial that, you know what, in this piece of the project right now, let's just talk it out. And maybe sometimes by the time you talk it out, the urge to execution may be gone because you've filtered it out in different ways, or you get more succinct and to the point of which part do you want to execute from. So there's the dreamer. Let's move on to the rescuer. The rescuer is the one for me that just like I could talk to this all day, every day. The rescuer is known as to be the go-to person in fixing things. And you know what's interesting is initially when I had I hit a bit of a hiccup in my life, if you will. And I went to therapy, and the two doctors sat down and they said, they were asking me questions. At the time, I didn't know they were also trying to testing to see or assessing to see if I have ADHD. They said, do you get things done? And I'm like, yeah, always. I am the one that gets things done, solves problems, go getter, execution, all of that. What they missed, and in that moment, when there were other questions that they asked, but essentially what they did is they diagnosed me with mild depression. So they missed the ADHD points. So here's the thing: when we're at the right time, at the right place with the right projects, it's our jam. And actually, our ADHD is kind of like a bit tamed, if you will, or we're working with the rhythm of our brain wiring. So for me, that was working for me. But the minute life pivoted a little bit, I became a mom late in life and really changed the way I was going about my life. ADHD started to show its traits even more. So then the ADHD diagnosis came in. So it's important to also look at where are we in our current professional career, if you will, and how does it support us, and what are the pieces that actually can move that strength over to Kryptonite. So by being a go-to fixer upper problem solver, one of the things that was happening is, I am pretty sure, and to this day I apologize for my previous colleagues where I stepped over their toes and meddled in their departments. And I say that now because at the time, the way I looked at it was, oh, you have a problem in your department, I can fix it. The other department is drowning in work, bring it over here, we'll take care of it. So that fixing of problems, it's almost like this urge for us also, emergency stuff really stimulates us. So it's really important that if you are the rescuer, to what detriment? Because at this rate, cortisol, adrenaline, that's your go-to. Eventually, your body is going to tap out, and it's not something that's sustainable. So this is one of those strengths that I say, as much as you can lean into it to get stuff done, also be cautious of how much you're overextending yourself to the point that you're burning out and actually avoiding the tasks that actually need to be done. So the other thing about rescuer can come across as impatient, seeing solutions before everybody else does, and you lean into action. So this part also, I'm noticing that with my some of my clients that are the innovators, the thinker outside the box, the impatience that they could have inside a meeting. So an idea is presented, everybody's around the room. The neurodivergent, the ADHD amazing star is sitting there going, this is no problem. We can solve this in 2 weeks. Everybody else is like, what are you talking about? We need to go through the process. I remember actually one time in a meeting, I was presenting a marketing initiative, and this one person said, can you give me a work pack schedule on this, Kathy? I really need a work pack schedule in order to be able to see this. In that moment, oh my gosh, the impatience. I'm like, are you kidding me? We don't even need a work back schedule. Let's just get into it. Let's go in and get it done. We don't have to go into the weeds. But for me, what I didn't at the time acknowledge or appreciate was the processing of this other person, the way they process information. So let me inject a little something here in the middle of this. It is also absolutely, absolutely critical that you align the way you process information to how you're showing up in your day-to-day work. So if the dreamer wants to think things through and ideate, and they usually have a lot of questions they want to ask, and if they don't have that time to process, it'll turn into defiant, I don't want to do it, I can't see big picture, leave me alone, I'm going to get grumpy. And then there's the action takers that are here, the rescuer that goes, got it, ready to go. Let's put pen to paper. I need to touch this. I need to be tactile. I need to move. I need to see it in different angles. And then if their processing modality is not aligned, again, it'll show up as emotional dysregulation. It'll show up as always being short and impatient. And that strategic side of you kind of gets dimmed down, and people see this other side of you that may come across as combative. So it's really important that you also you align with how you process information and where can you process this information. So for the dreamer is if they have a couple of people that they can bounce ideas off of, that to talk it out a little bit more, that's important. For the rescuer, if they can create pilots for themselves to just be able to, let me play with this project by myself a little bit, so that they can get that out of their system, the doing part. so that they can go along the journey a little bit to the pace that everybody else is coming along. So the other piece of the rescuer is they tend to go beyond the role, which we talked about. And part of this also is, and Dr. Hallowell talks about this when I was interviewing him on my show. He talked about one of the best things we could do for ourselves is to find the right difficult in projects. And so that there's always a little bit of challenge for us. And whenever I feel like we become experts in the thing, and we go pretty fast. We can learn things fast and we can move. And all of a sudden, before we know it, we got our role figured out. Things start to get a little boring. And in that boredom, we start looking for other people's problems and we start creating new problems. And how many of us resonate with that? Give me a thumbs up if that resonates with you, of when you get bored, then you start to look for, what else can I fix? What else can I break in order to fix? Sometimes I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. So the idea is to always have a little bit of a right difficult or a right challenge. And it doesn't have to be in the workplace. It could be outside of the workplace, on the side. There's some other project that's keeping your mind going so that it's stimulating you. So that towards the end of it, you either don't end up in burning out, because the rescuer in me burnt out at 35. I got my diagnosis of lymphoma Hodgkin's. And that was a wake-up call for me of, holy shit, I'm going too fast and I need to slow down. So you don't want to get there to end up with a critical illness. Would not wish that on anybody. But also the burnout cycle that keeps coming back up. I think for us neurodivergent folk, the burnout cycle is very much part of who we are. But it's to be able to detect it when it's coming, and how can we work with it so that it doesn't really tilt to burnout. And then also to constantly be checking in of, where am I at in this and how can I scale back, but also still find stimulating situations that I can be in to nurture this ever so dopamine seeking brain of mine. Let me pause for a second. Let me see what's in the chat. And again, thank you so much for those of you that are with me. I hope you're finding the information helpful. JP, my friend, hello. The challenge for me is I have too many. JP says I have too many places that I've jotted down my dream and ideas. Absolutely, JP, that's a thing. I so get it. And for me, I wish I had my black book of dreams. It's kind of tucked away right now because I haven't looked at it in a bit. Actually, hold on. Nope, I don't have it. It's back there. It's a big book, JP, for me, and I can't lose sight of it. And what I've done with it is that it's pretty colorful. It has a lot of things. So I actually look forward to going into this one space that I've created for Book of Dreams that I keep coming back to. So one way is to make it fun, make it however. Having said that, there are times where I will toggle between my systems. So it's either in the big black book, or it'll end up on my Google, one of the apps that I have on Google, that I will put it there. But usually it's in the big black book. And at least maybe every quarter, JP, I'll go back and I'll kind of revisit things. I'll add things to it. And I'm also starting to accept that in that moment, whenever I get these hits of like brilliant ideas, some of it is, Kathy, we don't need to act on everything. It's the thing that's going to stick. And sometimes if it keeps coming back again, the next day, then it goes into the black book. And other times it's just my way of my brain stimulating itself by coming up with ideas. And I'm accepting that just is. And I don't have to force myself to capture everything that's happening, because this brain is constantly going to come up with ideas. I watch a movie and I come up with an idea. I'm driving down the highway, I come up with an idea. So you get the point. I hope that's helpful, JP. They also ask, can you have some all traits, the dreamer and being heavier? Absolutely. And that's the part that I was mentioning, is by no means these traits are written in stone. These were just basically the three traits that I talk about in this conversation is based on experiences, the themes that we saw through our coaching conversations with our clients. So they're not end all to be all. These are the three themes. I'm pretty sure a couple of years from now, I'm going to come up with more themes that I'm noticing with my clients. But these are the predominant ones that I'm kind of seeing a red thread across the board with the type of clients that I work with. And most of my clients that I work with are in tech, and this is what's showing up. So I'd be curious for any of the other coaches that are actually listening to me here on this call. If you're in different industries, what themes are you noticing? So in law, in finance, what are some of the different ways that you're noticing your clients with ADHD are showing up? Great questions, JP. Thank you. Last but not least, the imposter. The imposter peeks his head from time to time in different ways. So in this one, the imposter tends to create structure, rigid structure to contain self. And so sometimes when people say, all people with ADHD are disorganized, all people with ADHD are late, people with ADHD have a hard time with planning, prioritization, that generalization often irks me because not all, because there are folks like this where they will. I know really amazing project managers that have come across my time that have ADHD and are just like amazing, exceptional project managers. They stick to timelines, they're doing the thing, and they have structure. And part of the reason is so that that's their coping mechanism or their way of trying to move through the day, right? And so they're keeping up with the Joneses, if you will. And often these folks, they don't ask for help. They rely on their own resources and self-discipline. And this is for me where I say don't do ADHD alone, because there is a point where ADHD and rumination, they're like best buds. So what happens is as you're trying to figure this out on your own, and we always say in coaching that our clients are whole and resourceful. When they come to coaching with us, we are simply their thinking partner, facilitating their thoughts and really pulling out their best selves and reflecting it back to them so that they can continue to be amazing. But what happens with ADHD is when going gets tough, we end up in rumination and catastrophization by default. There's actually research and study behind the fact that the default mode network part of our brain that is usually for creativity and thinking outside the box, what happens with ADHD is we may lean into it too much, and the switch to go back to the doing the task gets a little bit glitchy, and we stay in default mode network, which then turns into catastrophization and rumination. So imagine an artist is painting this beautiful canvas, and as they're painting it, they're like, oh, this is great, and I'm going to add this and this color, and wait, who's going to love this? Am I going to sell it? Oh, it's not good. I should just stop. And you can see how the trail of thinking goes from inspiration to catastrophization within a task, within sitting in one task. And how many of us can relate to that? And so when that happens, this is where, again, don't do ADHD alone, because then you're sitting with that and that becomes your truth. And for me, this is where the imposter comes in, is the minute that kicks in and it can stay for a while like that, and new beliefs are coming in that are not serving you. So it's important to bring on a thinking partner, to talk it out with someone whenever this whole self-reliance wants to kick in so hard that, wait a second, there's a point where it can serve me, but then there's a point where it'll actually get in my way. The imposter also learns to work faster than anyone else to make up for lost time. So imagine those days where they've procrastinated, they all of a sudden, they can bang out 3 projects in one day. And that hyper focus that we get into. And also the other side of that is when they're sitting in that hyper focus of getting it done, keeping up with everybody else because everybody else does it better than me. The downside of that hyper focus also becomes, I call it hyper focus hangover, where your brain just says enough with this peak of dopamine and high that I'm in, and now I need to bring it back down to baseline. And that recalibration that happens when after you come out of hyperfocus, how many of us feel depleted? Actually, for me, I come out of hyperfocus and I'm actually a little bit depressed. I withdraw. I just want to go in. I want to sleep because my brain actually is trying to keep up or recalibrate. Before knowing this, what I would say is, look, here I go again, the cyclical up and down, the extreme highs, the extreme lows. Now I'm much more intentional about my hyperfocus. When I do them, I plan around it actually, and I'm able to recover from it much quicker and with less shame and guilt, where before it used to be depression and anxiety of here I go again, I'm failing again. So last but not least, the imposter is always on guard, worrying that someone else will find out about their ADHD or the fact that they actually don't have it together. So imagine when you're this much, if this intensity that you're in, no wonder then you're sitting there going, I can't focus, I can't pay attention. Because your default state actually is in this heightened sense of emotional dysregulation, and when we're dysregulated, we actually can't access the thinking part of our brain, the front of our brain, executive functioning for thinking, decision making, all of that. So when you're dysregulated all the time, it makes sense that you can't focus. It makes sense that things come to you a little bit harder than the rest. So those were some of the ways that I've noticed the theme around my clients. I would love to hear if anybody wants to chime in. So let me pause for a second. If you're here, thank you so much for being here. I will continue this conversation in a two-way dialogue in the Zoom link that is in the comments. So if you want to register for the Zoom link after this talk, I'm going to hop over to Zoom and we can all have a dialogue about it, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. Also, if you have to run off, it's at a 30-minute mark. I do want to, and this has been resonating with you, I do want to bring up quickly that we have our Quantum Thinkers group running starting in January. This is a group that I've been running for the past 3.5 years in various formats. I've flushed it down to this format where we meet bi-weekly for 6 sessions. And in each of these sessions that we have, I bring a piece of that nugget of did you know, if you will. And then we talk about emotional dysregulation. We talk about time management. And within that group dialogue that we have, it's a pretty tight-knit community where we create for 3 months, and we just bang out all things ADHD in the workplace. So this is my invite to you to come and join us. December 16th is our cutoff. And I have 3 different slots this time. Last time I only had 2 different slots. This time there's 3 different slots where we join in. And also in between the group sessions, we will also be talking about doing private one-on-one with me. So I do office hours where you drop in. We do a quick laser coaching session one-on-one where most of the magic happens in those. So just to let you know that that's available to you. Now, let me go back to our regular schedule. So we talked about the 3 ways that, and those of you that are joining in, we talked about the dreamer that shows up in the workplace, the rescuer, and the imposter. The dreamer often comes up with amazing ideas, but the activation part, the doing part becomes a challenge. And it's to surround yourself with others in your team that can really support you in moving through. The rescuer is the fire marshal that comes in and says, I'll do it all. I'm seeing so much issues. Let me just fix it all, which then turns into burnout. So being able to navigate and find that right balance where you can be effective, but also with boundaries so you don't burn out. And then also the imposter that's constantly behind the scenes, just going ever so fast, and not seeing that they're actually pretty damn amazing at everything that they're doing, if they would give themselves some credit of all the badassery, if you will, that they've accomplished. So let's talk about, at a glance, some of the challenges, some of the common things: brain stimulation, pausing, self-regulation, momentum or lack thereof, and energy management. These are some of the ways, and this is not an exhaustive list, as this list could go on, believe me, that we see ADHD show up with my clients. Now, I want to talk about the good side of it. Let me just remove Oh no, sorry, we lost audio. I'm so sorry. So okay, I'm back. I removed myself and my audio went away. So here, let me go back again. Let me redo this part. Sorry about that. Thank you for letting me know. And thank you for sticking around. So let me go back. The way I look at strengths, gosh, I now have to remember what I just said, is to look through the lens of um, I don't like to glamorize ADHD and say it's a superpower. I like to glamorize the individual and say the individual is the superpower. It's the individual that actually is doing the thing. And by tapping into your ADHD, to your neurodivergence, you can create that strength, even amplify it even more. So essentially, if you look at the left side, these are some of the traits that we see with those with ADHD. And actually, I want to say within neurodivergent community, these come up. So let me just make sure everybody can hear me. William says you can hear me. I hope, George, you can hear me now. I just went back and forth because I can't repeat it a third time. Are you, let me make sure. Is everybody good? Can you give me thumbs up so that I know that you're able to hear me? Okay, it's back. There's a bit of a delay, but yeah, it's back. Great, 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 great. All right. So innovative thinking. And what I was saying is that you want to also consider on the right side, these are some of the mantras, these are some of the ways you can look at your brain wiring and how when tapped into it, innovative thinking can be sparking the next big thing. There's some geniuses in this room right now with us. Some of you outside the box thinkers that are here. You've done some brilliant things. And you know who you are. I don't want to put you on the spot. There's the divergent and strategic thinkers that they see paths less traveled. And for me, this is really important that when I see in leadership, when they're dimming down their light of divergence, because Kathy, if I turn up my divergent thinking, people are going to, I'm going to scare them away. I'm not going to be able to communicate well. And this is where I say don't do ADHD alone, because there are ways, there's techniques, there's tools that I use with my executives where we can support you to strategically tap into your divergent thinking and presenting so that actually you create buy-in as opposed to frustrating your audience. Because when it's unleashed, it can on the receiving end be overwhelming. And when it's strategically executed, it'll land the right way, and you can still be within integrity with the way you want to present your divergent mind. Hyperfocus and mastery, we talked about this. And for me, it's to navigate and to learn how to tap into hyperfocus in a way that doesn't deplete you. So along the way, over the past few years, I've learned how to strategically do my hyperfocus so that I don't have these extreme dips of depletion, exhaustion, depression. Resilience and tenacity. We are honestly resiliency, showing up every day in and day out, fighting the good fight. I see that in our community, but I also see the toxic side of the resiliency that can come in is, well, I don't want to quit. I don't want to leave this job again because, you know, they keep saying that I keep quitting. But sometimes we get stuck in that resilient mode. I'm going to make it happen. But we can also avoid and tolerate our needs, or avoid, pardon me, we tolerate the situation and avoid our needs. So it's important to be able to balance that resiliency and tenacity in a way that can really make us shine, and we can stand in our truth. Empathy and loyalty, there is this genuine care for people that we bring in, and the empathy that I even see within our community. Some of you that are coaches that are here, the level of empathy you have for your clients, the dedication you have to your clients, but also at the same time, to play the devil's advocate again, our sense of justice sensitivity can be through the roof, to the point that it may look like a bull in a china shop. We want to rescue everybody, we want to save everybody. And I actually did an article on justice sensitivity and ADHD, and how do you navigate it in a way that you can still fight the good fight, because there is research that our sense of justice sensitivity can be through the roof. But then how do we do it so that we don't end up in compassion fatigue and also be able to continue to do the good work that we're doing. And last but not least, that entrepreneurial drive that we have. Some of us, we can stay in the corporate world and tap into that entrepreneurial drive in different ways. And some of us will actually leave that corporate behind and create our own businesses and our own spaces where we can continue to be that. And knowing when to actually part from or decide which one is the one we want to go after, that's also another sweet spot that is worth looking at and evaluating, so that you don't have to feel that stuckness that may come within the corporate place. So, gosh, I'm on the roll, and now I'm talking too fast. So let me catch my breath here and see if there's anything else I want to say on this. And also, for those of you that are here, any questions? Does any of this resonate? I remember one time I presented this slide and the person said, "Oh my gosh, can I just put this on my LinkedIn profile because I am all of these things?" So feel free to screenshot this in whichever way, and really come up with your own impact statement as to how your amazing brain wiring, what it brings to the workplace, and even for yourself, for your family, for your business. And this is, again, not an exhaustive list, but most common things that we're seeing with ADHD traits that are out there. All right, my friends, this was it. This was my show and tell. Again, for those of you that want to join me on the Zoom, I'm going to log off and log back into Zoom so we can hear each other, talk, have a dialogue. And feel free to come over there with camera on or off, but come, ask questions, comments, reflect, whatever you want to say here. For those of you that are interested in joining our community as your thinking partner and facilitator, it would be my delight to have you in the group. I am told that I run the group in a way that's more growth mindset, because sometimes group coaching can have the other side of, woes me a lot, where with this one, we're really going after growth mindset, positive psychology, looking at different ways of sharpening our toolkit. So I encourage you to check us out in the different time slots that may make sense for you, and join us at Quantum Thinkers. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up and hop over to Zoom. Hopefully see you all there. All right, till next time, my friends, keep on shining. And thank you so much for giving me this 44 minutes of your time and being with me and taking a closer look at ADHD in the workplace. Till next time.